just kind of mute since it's being recorded. So welcome everyone. I'm Michelle Brown, CEO and principal of Into Action Coaching, New Jersey-based executive coaching, talent management consulting firm. And I'll pass it on to you, Amber, to introduce yourself, and then I'll kick it off with what our intention is today.
Sure. So hi, everybody. For those of you who I know, hey again. For those of you who I don't, nice to meet you. I'm Amber Lee Forrester. I am a positive psychology-based life coach and positive education trainer. I am a very purpose-driven entrepreneur and the founder of the Quartz Wellness Collective, which is a community where change agents and coaches and teachers and positive people and professionals come to learn how to build themselves and others around them. I am a mom of two. You may hear my kids in the background because we are still in homeschooling, but I'm right here in New Jersey and just happy to connect with you wherever you are. So welcome. We're also going to give an introduction of Nicole after Michelle kicks us off. So Nicole, we didn't forget about you. Our stage will be open to you in just a few minutes, but everyone just hi and wave to Nicole. We're just very happy to have you here as our guest speaker today.
Yeah, so I mean, you know, for those of you who are joining us for the first time and haven't necessarily heard this story, this has been a labor of love that Amber and I curated at the onset of 2020 when the pandemic hit, and you know, we were trying to figure out what we could continue to do even outside of the scope of the services that our individual companies provide, what we could do to just not only support each other, because Amber and I are friends, but how we can just kind of spread the love and be an anchor and a beacon of light for professionals out there. So we've changed the name to Purpose Driven Professional Lunch and Learn. We're now doing this once a month, the first Wednesday. So, you know, we're really excited for the newbies to join us, and for those who have been with us for the past year, welcome back. So I could barely contain myself. We are so excited with our topic, not only for this quarter, but today. And, you know, we chose A Course in Miracles. What a way to start the year. For those of you who are familiar with A Course in Miracles, it's just an incredible book. I won't give the history because we did that last month, but suffice to say that it's paradigm shifting. You know, it's not steeped in any particular religious modality, much more spiritual, but the principles that are incorporated in it are groundbreaking and mind shifting. So our theme for today, the last month of the quarter, is Get Your Shift Together. That is the creative mind power of Amber. She came up with that. But it's so relevant because what A Course in Miracles teaches us is how we can alter our lives simply by changing our thoughts, and that the human condition, and we're going to let Nicole kind of speak to it because this is her area of specialty, but I'll do it to the best of my ability. We have a tendency to be seeing things through our human lenses, which are very limited and sort of scarce based. But what we want to inspire ourselves and each other to do is to shift our perspective, because when we can pay attention to our thoughts, especially those that are unfavorable, the stinking thinking, as they say, we can change our lives and navigate it and direct it in a way that is more by design and less by default, not by human conditions, not allowing life situations and circumstances, especially with what we've had to live through, you know, this past year. We don't have to be encumbered by situations or circumstances. We are a cup of God, and we are much more powerful than our situation, our circumstances. So that is how we are going to shift our thinking and get our shift together. And I'll say this lastly, and I know Amber will sort of embellish on it. We are delighted to not only have our guest, Nicole, but to share with you 10 principles that we synthesized and took this incredibly voluminous, comprehensive A Course in Miracles work and tried to distill it down to sort of 10 principles that, you know, we can kind of incorporate into our thinking and into our lives in order to change the trajectory of it. So that's the overview, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes, so we are going to dig in, but let me first welcome to the stage, Miss Nicole Miller. Nicole, I don't want to say is Strachan?
Strong.
Strawn, sorry. Okay,
Strong. Mhm.
Nicole Miller Strawn. So I know Nicole since she was Nicole Miller, because Nicole and I grew up at Transforming Love Community together with our mothers who are both on and our family, and just really being immersed in the spiritual work. And so it's just very near and dear that we're having this conversation today. So let me tell you a bit about Nicole. Nicole has dedicated her career to the purpose of standing in the gap for individuals and communities by creating opportunities to remove barriers and make space for healing and alignment. Woo, that's strong. What an opening. We could stop right there. I mean, but we'll keep going. Most of her career focus has been dedicated to social services, ensuring individuals and families receive tools for self-empowerment. In 2018, she transitioned back into the health and wellness, where she began her career in 1996 as an educator of communicable disease and substance abuse. In late 2017, Nicole experienced a health challenge that manifested itself steeped in unprocessed emotion and unhealthy habits. This experience sparked a renewed commitment in making space for anyone that would like to realize healing and alignment, reach goals, and recognition of their very best version of themselves. As an ordained ministerial counselor and certified health coach, Nicole stands in the truth that healing begins with exploring the thoughts and conversations that we have within ourselves, moment by moment, day by day. Divinely aligned, Nicole facilitates experiences that lead to the uprooting of unhealthy thought patterns to initiate change. She's dedicated to making space for anyone that makes the choice to experience and embrace new thoughts of wellness that lead to the inner and outer transformation of one's own optimal health. In 2019, she established Divine Roots LLC, a company that promotes the alignment of mind, body, and spirit. It is their belief that the uprooting of fear-based thought initiates a loving and healing process to enroot new thoughts of wellness that is based in the true essence of divine love. With 20 plus years of experience as a public speaker, workshop facilitator, and community program developer, Nicole will continue to create and expand spaces so that everyone experiences a safe moment to grow and heal spiritually. Welcome, Nicole. Can't you
Thank
see why
you.
we have her here? Ah,
Oh, thank you so much, Amber. Thank you so much, Michelle. I am honored, truly honored to be invited into your space and to share with everyone today. I'm excited, okay? Like, to be honest, I am firing off on all cylinders. A Course in Miracles excites me, and I am thrilled, so thrilled to be here to have a discussion with you today.
yes. So without further ado, let's jump on in. As I mentioned, we created, in preparation for today, we created these 10 guideposts for, hold on, I'm gonna expand my screen. So Michelle, you have us on the waiting room, right? Because I cannot see the waiting room
Yes,
now.
yes.
Okay,
Yep,
wonderful.
yep.
All right, so here we go. Look at our lovely, this is just our lovely promo. Please look for this every month. You know that we are here on the first Wednesday of every month, and we share a promo to let you know what's coming. So we're going to get into the how, but I'm just going to go over a quick review or a quick summary of what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about cultivating peace and harmony and faith and love and new perspective and perception. We're going to talk about empowerment, becoming a victor, cultivating our trust within. We'll talk about cultivating the reality of our lessons and blessings, acceptance and forgiveness, radical surrendering, and our oneness with each other and God. And lastly, we'll talk about cultivating our highest self. Now, the how is going to be in what we let go of. And so that's going to be a part of every discussion. And we'll jump right in with the first. And that is letting go of judgment to
Wait, can
cultivate.
I offer something? Food for thought as you go into this. What we want to invite you to do, because we're going through these 10, possibly at the end, identify 2 or 3 that you want to potentially incorporate, because it's possibly going to be a bit of a heavy lift, perhaps. It's all possible, but that's my invitation to you. Pick 2 or 3 of these principles that you want to begin to enact in your life. Yeah, okay.
And
Back
this
to you,
is coming
Amber.
from the founder of Into Action Coaching, right? Because she wants you to take this and actually put it into action. And that's what we're talking about today, how to take these principles, these guide and use them as guideposts in our lives of what we do actually put in action to get our shift together. So thank you for that, Michelle. And we also invite you to use the chat and to, as we go, feel free to weigh in and to ask any questions or share any comments that you have with us by either raising your hand, letting us know in the chat, or just unmuting if it's a point in the conversation where it's comfortable to do so. So Nicole, we want to start off with you. Cultivating peace and harmony. In order to cultivate peace and harmony, we have to let go of judgment. Will you expand on that for us? Oh,
We lost her.
did we lose her?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm sure she'll be right back. Okay, so Michelle, we can go in and then we'll go back to Nicole when she joins us.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to until she joins us. So, you know, having been a student of a course for probably the last 25 years, not to mention my spiritual journey, going through a number of courses, what I take away from this principle, letting go of judgment. You know, when we think about the discord in our life, what we sometimes are unaware of is that we are judging, we are giving meaning to situations and circumstances that happen. There was a young lady on our call last month that made reference to sort of, you know, why do bad things happen to good people? And what we offered her as a shift is recognizing there are no bad things, may seem like that, but they're just things happening. So when we let go of judgment, which is giving meaning to something, we then can cultivate peace and harmony. Let me know, because I'm looking at the slide, let me know when Nicole joins us. But peace and harmony come from when we clean, I call it the metaphor, cleaning the Vaseline off our lenses so that we can look at our life, people, situations, and circumstances through neutral lenses, meaning we may need to respond and react in a way. So if somebody does anything sort of egregious, I'm going to let her in. It doesn't mean that we are to play doormats and just allow anything to happen and not react, but we are much more powerful and we remain at sort of a higher vibrational frequency when we're able to neutralize, you know, and not judge that should not have happened. If it's happened, it's happening for a reason. We're going to get into the lessons and the blessings, but ultimately it's, we want to try to stay even from an emotional intelligence perspective in peace and harmony. So anyway, I know Nicole is back and as more of an expert than I am, that's my 2 cents on the subject.
Yes, so Nicole, just to re-present you, we're glad you made it back. We're talking about the first guidepost of letting go of judgment to cultivate peace and harmony.
Yes. So with the course, when we talk about letting go of judgment, we're speaking specifically to the story that we're telling ourselves. And a lot of times we judge it as good, bad. And that creates a story where everyone involved has lost their innocence. When we judge a thing, at times there's always that blame and that shame associated with it. And in A Course in Miracles, it says we are all innocent. That right at the space that we are at, we are innocent, and we have an opportunity to heal, forgive, and realign ourselves with the truth of who we are and the essence of love.
Yes, Nicole, thank you for that. And before I move us on to the next section, to the next guidepost, I just want to quickly say, I'm reading a book, or actually I just finished reading a book, and it's called The Shadow Effect by Deepak Chopra, Debbie Ford, and Marion Williamson. And it's really amazing in that it talks about how we place the things that society, our parents, our experiences have told us are not good in our shadow. And we often judge people on what we judge other people on what we've placed in our shadow. But when we recognize our wholeness, our divine wholeness, we understand that we each hold a piece of these traits as a part of our wholeness. And when we deny them, when we judge them, we don't have that peace and harmony because we're really judging ourselves. And so I just want to add to that and recommend that book, The Shadow Effect, if anyone is interested in that space. So the second guidepost that we have is letting go of fear to cultivate faith and love. And now, Nicole, I know when we had this conversation, you were like, if you could just wrap up all of A Course in Miracles, you would wrap it up as, I'm going to let you say it instead of saying it and just have you take it from here, please.
Yeah, so letting go of fear, letting go of our limiting thoughts and belief systems, the things that separate us once again from the essence, the true essence of who we are. And I'm going to say that a lot today because it's important to remember at our essence who we are love. And the blocks that we create from fear of not being accepted, fear of judgment, fear of a lack of worthiness, etc., that takes us away from or kind of murkies the water for us to see us in our true essence, which is love. And then faith is a surrender. Faith is when we know what we know, when we live in the knowing. And of course, talks of knowledge is truth, and that truth is of God. So to be in that knowing and work the knowing, to work our faith muscle, is to build our strength in who we are. So when we remove those limitations, those fearful thoughts, the blocks, we step more into the essence and we're able to cultivate our purpose and who we are and why we're here.
That's so profound. Yeah, I mean, I just put in the chat one of the, I don't know if it's a lesson or just part of the text of Course in Miracles. Marion Williamson speaks to it a lot, and she says, what is not love is fear and nothing else. So, you know, as we shift, as we get our shift together, you know, I'm practicing it on a day-to-day, moment-to-moment basis, recognizing that my divine identity is that of love because I'm a cup of God. At least that's my belief. And subsequently, when I'm able to recognize the limiting beliefs, to Nicole's point, that I have and recognize that is man-made, if I can take that interpretation away from whatever I may be experiencing, you know, I'm back in my true state. And fear, a spiritual teacher told me years ago, is an acronym for false evidence appearing real. Right? Yeah. And that really kind of helped me shift in recognizing, hang on, I'm looking at this in an incorrect way.
So Michelle, I've gone on to the third principle for you to take it from here.
Yeah, letting go of the meaning we place on things to cultivate new perspective and perception. And that speaks to, you know, what Nicole just made reference to, and it even speaks to the first principle about giving up judgment. We are authors and narratives, and we give meaning consciously or unconsciously to everything. Whether we're driving down the highway and someone cuts us off and we immediately, you know, either want to flip them the bird or say to ourselves, they're an irresponsible person. We are story-making machines. So, you know, when we can give up giving things meaning, we can shift our perspective. So, Nicole, tell us more about that principle.
So I would like to use my personal story right now, and how I got my shift together and letting go of the meaning we place on things. So 6 months ago, my husband and I separated. And when that occurred, oh, I was devastated. I was on the floor. I had an emotional heavy load that just came on me. And I was in a space where, wait a minute, this is at the beginning of the last 90 days of my ministerial program. This is supposed to be part of my perfect picture. What do you mean we are no longer together? And started telling myself a story of victimization on how he left, etc. And once I really started working the principles in real time, because that's what I love about the course. It's a real-time application. The principles and the practice, you automatically, by choice, can shift your mindset so that you see the blessing or find love within it all. And the minute I did that, I realized, hey, it's all divinely working out. This space was created for my growth, for me to look at those areas in my life where I limited God within myself and within my marriage. And once that shift occurred, it was like freedom all over again. And my value was no longer put in a special relationship, which the course talks about, how the value shifted to my alignment with my spirit, my alignment in the surrendership, which I call the relationship I have with spirit, the surrendership that I put the space where I put my mind moment by moment to constantly receive miracles. So when you shift and you release a lot of the meaning and the stories you tell yourself, you experience the miracle in your life the minute you have that shift in perception.
Mm. Thank you so much for sharing that story, Nicole. And I'm sure so many of us can relate to those moments when we recognize those stories that we were telling ourselves that kept us in that victimization, right? And when we shift out of that victim mode and when we look at what we can do because we can't control others, then we take our power back and we recognize our ability to move forward and to pivot and to move into a space. And when we have that faith and trust, we recognize that this is not a bad thing that happened to me. This is something that happened that is leading me to my highest and best good. And it's that ultimate trust and that ultimate faith that is so crucial in our lives. And before we move on to the next, I just want to welcome Reverend Shahira Stevens has just joined us. And Rev, I know you're not on camera now, but maybe you can unmute and just say hi. We are forever appreciative of your guidance as Nicole and I and our families came up in your church, your community in the 90s, the 2000s, and all of that, and continue to be a part of Transforming Love community. So we're so glad you could join us, Rev. Hi.
I just want to, Pam, I think it was your mom who put a comment in the chat, which really was profound and it resonated. She commented on fear is resistance to perception. Pam, comment on that, because that's deep.
I mean, that's exactly what I meant to say. Fear is, when I don't have a lot of words right now. I actually would rather just listen, but I wanted to put that quote in there from the old Star Trek, resistance is futile, because it truly is. When we resist what we experience, that's where all of the negative fears and perceptions come in to kind of cloud over, as Nicole was talking about, what you can receive from any experience, which is what God wants you to know and understand, as opposed to what your ego is trying to tell you, all of those bad, negative, this shouldn't have happened to me, this is la la la, and this means I'm blah blah blah, and all that kind of stuff. So resistance allows fear to come in.
Yes, no, love hearing that from you.
All right. Thank you for sharing. And this is what's so special about us joining together, that remember, we're not here to talk at you. This is a conversation. And so we really appreciate and welcome you to join in on the conversation and share your wisdom and your perspective. So this is what we just touched on this, but letting go of victim mentality to cultivate empowerment. So we spoke on that, and is there anything else that we want to share on that? Because that is so major, that you go from being a victim to a victor, right? Nicole, do you want to weigh in on that any further before?
My favorite quote, one of my favorite quotes from the course is, we are not a victim of the world we see. And when I say that to myself, when I'm feeling fearful, uneasy, anger, rage, or any type of disconnect, I have to remind myself, I am not a victim of the world I see. I have a choice. And in this choice, I make a conscious decision to free myself from the limited view in front of me. So just make a choice to free yourself.
I love that you say just make the choice, because we make it so hard, but it really, and it can be a challenge to get there. But once we've done that work, once we come into places like this and we remind ourselves and we commit to that work, it is a matter of it is a matter of choice. It is a matter of us being able to say at any moment from this day forward, this is how it is. And so that empowerment, our true power is when we come out of that victim mentality and we step into our choice. Thank you for that, Nicole.
Yeah, and I'm going through Marion Williamson's 365 Days, A Course in Miracles. Every day she identifies a lesson. And one of the recent lessons was giving up a attack mindset. And as a human, it's almost automatic that, when unfavorable things happen to us, it could be, a husband leaving or a marriage dissolving, getting terminated, or just, someone saying something unfavorable to us. When we shift from getting out of that attack mode and victim mindset, that's when, we really assume our power. We can react to it in a tactful and diplomatic way, but if there is a victim, then that means that someone is a villain. And if we recognize that at the very core, we are the same. We really are the same. We may look different, we may speak differently, we may act differently, but at the very core, in terms of our spiritual resemblance, we can't have polarity. So, if we're a victim, we're making someone else a villain, and there is no power in that. So that was an incredible discovery. Yeah.
Can I chime in for 1 second?
Sure.
This is Desi. I think that I would agree. I think when we create these extremes in polarity, it feels very finite that it has to be black and white. But I do think that there are situations where I don't necessarily have to be a victim, but there are people who are perpetrators of great harm in our society. And I think that we have to identify them as such. And I think that for a very long time, we have been, and I'll speak specifically about things like white supremacy and patriarchy, I think trying to placate the comfort of people who have done great harm in order to have a conversation about race, because we don't want to offend people. We want to bring people to the table. I think it perpetuates the harm that we continue to see. And so I think that we should, if there is a clear villain, if there is a clear space of harm that people sit in, I think we should identify that. It doesn't necessarily have to make us victims, but I think that to not really identify things that are wrong, that are harmful in our society, give space for them to perpetuate more and have it morph into different things, because then it morphs into legislation that is conservative or legislation that protects religion, or and so I don't want to go too far, but
we're driving down the highway and someone cuts us off,
things, because then it morphs into legislation that is conservative or
Sorry,
legislation.
I think we have someone, if everyone can mute, not speaking, I think we have a little feedback. Okay, thank you. So Desi, I thank you. We always appreciate your the points that you bring up for consideration. And I just want to say that we're not saying not to recognize the victim. I think where the encouragement is to not get stuck in being the victim, because when we get stuck there is when we give our power up. So recognizing that there's reality and to all of what you said, but just not, if we as a people get stuck in that place of we're the victims, then we cannot truly own our empowering the empowerment to move forward.
And I'll
understood.
Yeah, and I'll just kind of add to it, because I know that, it certainly brings clarity to me, because I totally understand and accept the perspective that you're coming from, Desi. And when we entitle people victims or villains, it's sort of an identity, but we can be victimized. That is looking at the act, but it's not looking at the identity of I'm a victim, because if I'm a victim, then there has to be a villain. So, you know, it's profound work for us to kind of comb through that stuff and do what we need to do in order, to your point, to not perpetuate or, you know, look at these acts as benign, but it's how we powerfully want to address unfavorable things that happen to us or happen in the world, but not come from a less than mindset. Yeah.
Right. It's the same sort of shift that we're making in terms of saying that people were slaves rather than having been enslaved.
Exactly. Exactly.
Snaps on that.
Yes.
Michelle, I've gone to the next slide for you.
Yeah. Letting go of external validation to cultivate our trust within. Woo. All right. That is profound. So my take on this has a lot to do with the role that the ego plays. And I remember growing up, you know, we used to hear this expression, you know, I need an ego boost, you know, and I didn't realize until years later that that was a misnomer. You know, our ego can criticize or also be overextended when it is hungry for praise. So letting go of external validation, which is how people see me, view me, perceive me, you know, can compromise, you know, our state of being. So when we let it go, this is my takeaway, we cultivate an inner trust. Nicole, take it away.
Letting go of external validation. Yes, Michelle, I so agree with you. It reminds me of the holy relationship, and I'm going to say holy, WHOLE, that the course calls for us to have, where we recognize and we live in the truth that we have everything we need within us. Like Michelle says, we're a cup of God. Or Rumi, when he says, I'm not a drop in the ocean, but the ocean in one drop. Within us, we have everything that we need and that we could possibly ever call forth to desire. And all we have to do is trust that and begin recognizing, what does it look like on this walk with self for me to trust self.
Mic drop. Yes, yes. And before moving on, I'll just quickly say that this is a part of the beauty in only comparing ourselves to ourselves and not comparing ourselves outside of ourselves. And social media can really play a trick on us and make us look at other people's lives, and we compare our success to other people's success, but we define what success and happiness and well-being looks like for us, and that should feel good for us no matter what someone else is doing. And so that is that trust within of knowing, like you've both said, knowing what it is that we need and honoring ourselves and knowing what we believe in and not letting the noise, the external noise, penetrate us. So letting go of a focus on problems to cultivate the reality of our lessons and our blessings. Nicole, you know, you spoke to this already somewhat in talking about how you've gotten your shift together and how you have chosen to change the narrative around the story that you were telling yourself and possibly even others around your separation. And so, you know, that so resonates in this space also of letting go of the focus on the problem and getting wrapped in the negative self-talk and the downward spiral of thoughts. When we focus on the problem, it goes, you know, what are people going to think? What are people going to say? What am I going to do? And we can get so wrapped up in this downward spiral. And it's not until we really take a moment to pause and go within and recognize that we can shift. And we can shift to really understanding what the lesson and the blessing is. And I do truly wholeheartedly believe that we need that space. We need the space and the time to downward spiral. We need that time to just feel the feels. We need to acknowledge when something hurts and not just automatically go, there's a lesson, there's a blessing. We need the time to grieve, right? But not getting stuck there. Again, it's like that emotional intelligence, like Michelle mentioned, our ability to notice, name, and then navigate our emotions. So in order to notice them, we have to feel them. In order to name them, we have to feel them. So there's no denial in our emotions, but it's not getting stuck in them. And then when we're ready, we can say, I'm gonna let myself bug out for a week, a month, an hour, a minute, whatever it is. But after that, I got to get it together, and we can define what that looks like. Nicole, will you add to that for us?
So letting go of the focus on problems, it reminds me of the special relationship. And that's when we separate ourselves. And, using once again my story as an example, my hurt, what happened to me was bigger and greater than any other disappointment that had ever been experienced out here. And by all means, it's taking me down through this road and no one understands me. That's false. Hurt is hurt. Pain is pain. To be able to voice it and acknowledge it instead of being in a space where you're blaming the other person or you're feeling shame around it, releasing blame and shame cultivates the reality of your lessons. And you can find the blessing within that, within your lesson when you release that, and guilt.
Absolutely. Wow, there's so many things that are coming to mind. I love what Amber just said about, we don't want to practice metaphysical malpractice. And what that is, my niece calls it being too spiritual, immediately feeling guilty around whatever pain you're experiencing. We are still, even though we are spirits having human experiences, we have to recognize when we're feeling the pain, because there's something healthy in that process. And yet what I love about cultivating or curating the reality of our lessons and blessings is recognizing that every single thing, even on a continuum from egregious act to extreme humanity, there is a lesson and then a blessing that can be born from that. And when we allow ourselves to ask our higher self in some instances, what is the lesson that I'm to learn from this experience? Then we get the blessing, and we can then look upon that act that may have been originally defined as a challenge or an issue and say, thank you. Because if it weren't for you, if it weren't for it, I would not have elevated to a higher self. Takes some work, ladies and gentlemen, but this is what getting your shift together looks like.
Okay, Michelle, that's you. The next slide.
Yeah. Okay. I'm getting so caught up in it. Thank you for reminding me. All right. So principle number 7, letting go of grievances to cultivate acceptance and forgiveness. So I'm just going to stay quiet because gosh knows I could just go on forever. Nicole, take it away.
To simply say it, release the anger. Release being angry. Anger is fearful and it is very limiting. And that speaks to the course. Once again, we are all innocent. There's innocence in that separation, in that moment of forgetfulness that the course speaks about. There is innocence there. We're two individual frequencies, part of one energy, having experiences. And we experience the same moment differently at times. And so within that, just allow everyone the opportunity to have innocence, a moment of not knowing, and forgive them and accept, because when you forgive someone else, you're really forgiving yourself for the perception that you have, that you projected. And it frees you. And once again, I say this so simply, and it does take work and it is a process. But once you train your mind and you stay in a space of mindfulness and you check your mindset moment by moment, the shift occurs. The shift occurs very quickly.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And this is such a powerful one in that, we think that we're hurting other people by not forgiving them, but we're really hurting ourselves. And one of my teachers once told me, not forgiving someone is like drinking poison and waiting for the other person to die. I'm going to move us on because we just have another 15 minutes left and we want to get through these last 3. Letting go of the need to control. Woo! Who's that resonating with? Letting go of the need to control to cultivate radical surrendering. What does radical surrendering mean to you, Nicole?
Acceptance. A course says a worried mind is not at peace. So radical surrendering is radical peace, it's radical love, it's radical joy. It's the evolution of self that leads to the revolution that I want to see out in the world, right? So
and sometimes we get caught up in that control. We think we have to. Michelle always says we are human beings, not human doings, and we think that sometimes that in order for things to go our way, that we need to control the situation, when really that's we need to let go and let God is one of the most powerful sayings that I've taken and that I remind myself of whenever I'm going through something that I've done all that I could, or even when I feel like I don't need to do all that I can. I know I get that spirit voice from within that says, let go and let God. I hear Rev, I hear my mom, I hear my grandma reminding me, let go and let God. And that surrendering, that letting go and letting God is that radical surrendering. Michelle,
Yeah, let me just add, so yeah, just briefly. So, you know, sometimes the dichotomy of how much do we do, right? Because I remember hearing in Unity that expression, let go and let God. I'm like, okay, so do I just kind of sit back and allow anything to happen? And what I've done for me is, in the way that I'm practicing letting go and letting God, is sit with it and actually even ask, you know, God, higher self, whatever we want to call that presence, what should I do? So that I wasn't allowing my ego to jump forward and try to, you know, critically act in a way that may be premature or may not bring about the best and optimal outcome, but to kind of sit with it. And, you know, this is when we kind of tap into our own spirit that can then guide us, because there may be action to be taken, but to kind of rest first and ask before we take action. That's how I define radical surrendering. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like the 4 agreements, when we know that we've done our best, when we know that we put the action in, because we, like, as you say, to your point, we don't just sit back and wait for God to do the work. We know that we've done our best. And there are some points where we just have to say, I've done my best and I have to leave this here.
Yeah, because we are co-creators.
Yes. So just from our chat, Elizabeth Trainer says, never forgot that, human beings, not doings. And Pam says, control of self is necessary to release of control of others. Thank you. Yes. Okay, Michelle, this is you.
Letting go of perceived separateness to cultivate oneness with each other and God. I think, you know, we talked about this as it related to one of the earlier principles. We are more alike than we are different, you know. That's what we're here on this earth plane to discover. So tell us more, Nicole.
It just brings me back to the holy relationship, recognizing that we have everything we need within and that we are one and divinely aligned with our source, with God. And there was a mantra that was gifted to me during this time, and it is, I will to will the will of God, or I will to will the will of God. And that is completely taking me into a space of oneness, that my desire is to align with my highest good, which means I need to free the self within. So
yeah. This concept took me a while to really understand. So when we think about the primary principle that weaves through A Course in Miracles is we are love, right? I don't know that it gets any simpler than that. And when we recognize that, again, even on this continuum of, you know, people who are confused and do egregious acts versus, you know, people who even on this earth plane resemble saints, the common denominator, the true essence of who we are from a creator perspective is love. And, you know, being able to recognize that what we're here to uncover is that similarity. So yeah, there's a story, but it's going to take too long to tell it. But it boils down to every person that crosses our path and that we orbit with is intended to have us return to love, regardless of what it is that they do or how they represent themselves in our life. And when we recognize that they are love, even if there's an act of seeming cruelty or disappointment, there is something in that act that is supposed to gift us with something. So, it takes a bit of deep reflection and surrendering to kind of uncover that. But that is how we can look at this other person as love, even though it's coming in an unrecognized package.
Hmm. It takes strength to forgive. It takes strength to recognize our oneness. When we just get stuck in what someone did wrong and our knee-jerk reaction, our knee-jerk response, that is the lower vibration. That is the automatic negative response that we have. But it really takes great strength to be able to move beyond that and recognize the oneness and recognize that some of our most powerful lessons can come from some of our most painful experiences.
Absolutely. That's the shift.
And so we've led up to this last point of letting go of our human self to cultivate our highest self. And I left this for last because it's letting go of our human self. You can think, well, what does that mean? I'm human. I am human. How do I let go of my human self? And so, Nicole, I want to pose that question to you. How do you let go of your human self to cultivate your highest self?
By recognizing and accepting your true divinity. A course says that, well, in the Course in Miracle, it teaches that the body is a tool of the mind. And that without the mind, without the soul, the body would not be. And so to understand that this form that I'm in is the tool to manifest and show up as miracles day by day. I am a tool to show up as love and to be a space, to create a space for myself to heal and others to heal. That we're here to be the miracle that we see. We're here to be the miracle that we are. And so to let go of this illusion, because that's what the Course in Miracles calls this, the illusion, and accept that I am a spirit having this human experience, and my purpose is to show up as love, extend love, and to heal, and to stand in that truth. And once again, I know it sounds beautiful, like, oh yeah, it is a process, because we are having this human experience. And so to take everything we learned, within these 10 points today, I think is awesome, because they become reminders to help shed off the illusion and stand in the power of who we are.
All right.
Yes, yes. I've just dropped in the chat your 10 guideposts for freeing your higher self. And this is that last page that I mistakenly pulled up while Nicole was talking. But if you click on that, you have one page that has all 10 of these that you can keep and save, just to remind yourself of these guideposts that we've composed for you. So we just want to open, it's 1:24, and I know that we've had a lot of content. This was a very hearty discussion, and just so much appreciation to you all for participating, and Nicole for you sharing your wisdom and your expertise with us on the subject. Does anyone have any questions or comments or anything that they'd like to share? Great. So I'll read some of what's in the chat. Christine Kenny says this was amazing. And Reverend Shahira says, great conversation and blessings to all. Elizabeth Godwin says, love, love, and more love. And Pam says, clearly the process is important. Feel the feelings and recognize the need to shift. Mm-hmm. And love, love, and more love is just such a part of us being here, right? This is such a welcome experience. As Michelle mentioned, this is a labor of love for us, but we really do enjoy just coming together with you to share love and wisdom with each other.
And one of the things I speak to often with one of my best friends is, as I want to get my shift together, I often will ask myself in the moment, who am I being? And that anchors me back to being a human being and not a human doer. It's, if I'm thinking unkind thoughts, if I'm reacting, and if I'm anywhere outside of the reference or definition of love, it anchors me. Who am I being? So, we kind of want to gift that inquiry to ourselves, because from an emotional intelligence perspective, it will lift us up and out. Yeah.
Yes, yes. Before we close, we have Johanna and Charlene, I believe both have comments. So I just want to invite you to unmute and share your comments with us.
Thank you. I just want to say this was phenomenal. And I came from, or my professional career was in corporate America. And I'm telling you that this is so empowering. It would help so many people because it did help me. And one of the, I noted number 6, because what you guys are presenting here, they also present in somewhat of a way in corporate America, but just in different language, you know, the way that they say it. Excuse me, I'm just a little nervous. But cultivating the reality of your lessons and blessings, letting go of the focus on the problem. In corporate America, they have this problem solving, 5 steps to problem solving. And the first step, like Nicole said, is identify that you have the problem. You do have the problem. But then take the focus off the problem and move it to the solution. And that is exactly what we were discussing here in this topic. And it's just phenomenal. So I just wanted to say how, you know, relating it to one's personal career and how it helped me in my career, you know, instead of playing the victim and, oh, they won't do this because of whatever reason or because of that reason. And then I turned to focus on me. Well, what do I need to do? What do I need to improve? How can I better myself to position myself to be where I think I want it to be? So I just wanted to say that. You guys are phenomenal. This was great. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us. Thank you. Joanna, did you want to?
Yeah, hi everyone. I just want to say, I find this, first of all, thank you for everything you do, Amber and Michelle. It's just so beautiful. And I find that everything I do, you know, I'm in a very deep meditation course right now, and I study Kabbalah, and Michelle and I know each other quite well. I've done all sorts of energy healing and working with the rays and channeling and all of that good stuff. And I'm always, and I refuse to use the word coincidence, but it always is fine. I find it so awe-inspiring that all of this work constantly weaves itself together, you know, into like a magical carpet. I do tapping. I don't know if everyone knows about tapping, when you tap on the, you know, on your points. So I was watching this thing on the tapping, and there was a lady who was talking about forgiveness, and this blew my mind right out of my head. So her 6-year-old son, was shot and killed in the Sandy Hook shooting. I think it was 8 years ago. And, you know, God forbid it should happen to any of us, that we should lose our children. And she said, I forgave the shooter. And I was just speechless. And she said the reason she forgave him was that she realized he was a very sick man. And to me, that is the core being of pure unbounded consciousness. If you can forgive someone who kills your child, that, excuse my language, but pretty fucking amazing. So, you know, we can all forgive, however pure and, you know, humble pie we are, or however angry we are, or, you know, whatever the case may be. If you can see what the baddie, where that person has come from and what they're suffering, we can turn it around, hopefully, and see the light, and know. I was taking another course the other day. She was talking about namaste. You know, I see the divine light in you that is the same divine light in me that makes us one. So I just thank you for this, because it keeps telling me that we're all doing the same work and we all flow together in the universe, and it makes us a beautiful being.
Absolutely, Joanna. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we've just reached our 1:30, so we're gonna go ahead and start wrapping it up, because we don't want to keep you much longer than we say we would. But this was just such a wonderful discussion, and thank you so much for your participation. I'm gonna watch this one over again. I feel like I need to sit with this again as well. So I just want to, I'm going to ask Nicole to let everyone know where we can find you. But before you do that, Nicole, I want to invite folks. We have another 3-part series that we'll be doing, because we're doing these in 3-part series now for this year. And we would love to hear from you if there's anything that you would like for us to focus on. We focus on professional and personal development. We are the purpose-driven professional lunch and learn. And so if there's an area where you need support in your life, or where you'd like to join us for some conversations, please do share in the chat, or feel free to send us an email in response to the invitation that you get, as we're looking to confirm what our next 3 months will be about. So Nicole, where can we find you?
So right now you can just email me at Nicole, NICHOLESMILL @gmail.com. Amber is my flow coach, so I am very grateful for being here today and for you having me. Thank you so much, Michelle. Thank you, everyone. The course says the teacher becomes the student and the student becomes the teacher, and I really believe we all had that exchange here today. So thank you so much.
Yes, yes, and thank you. And I see a few folks asking about the recording. Lucia, thanks for asking. I'll just let everyone know. The recording is on Facebook. It will also be on YouTube. If you have signed up, then you'll get our emails, so you'll see the replay link. You can also look on, you can search for PDPLL, Purpose Driven Professional Lunch and Learn, on YouTube, and I believe it will show up. The recording will probably be live by tomorrow, end of day. It usually takes us about a day to turn it around. So thank you, thank you. Before we go, we'll just, some tough challenges asked of us spiritually. Tough, but thanks for this. Yes, Desi, we recognize this work is tough. It's not easy, but it's coming together and supporting each other in these spaces and pouring into each other that I think makes it much more feasible for us to move forward together.
And our life depends on it, ladies. Our life depends on this. That's how we have to look at our spiritual growth. Yeah.
The spiritual is the ritual, right? What you're doing over and over on a regular basis. So we're asking ourselves those questions. And as Reverend Shahira says, it is a practice. So with that said, it is 1:33. Thank you all for an amazing time together. Many blessings to all of you. We hope to see you in the coming months. We are always here the first Wednesday of every month at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So thank you to Michelle. You can find out more about Michelle Brown on her website, Into Action Coaching. That's INTU, actioncoaching.com. And more about me at my website, quartzwellnesscollective.com. That's QUARTZ, wellnesscollective.com. I wish you all well. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a great rest of your day and week. God bless.